Picture this. You're a young player with the opportunity of a lifetime. You're striving, you're putting in hundreds of thousands of hours, and you have the opportunity to play in what is the thing that everybody strives for as a competitive player. Going to the World Championship, representing a team, and hoisting that trophy for what is a $6 million prize pool. Take a step back and bear with me. We're going to talk about Rocket League and the RLCS World Championships, Rocket League Championship Series, in its 14th or 15th season. There's a lot of different factors of this, and it's going to be kind of tough to keep it all aligned, but we'll do our best. But every single competitive player, every single pro player dreams of someday lifting the trophy. And part of that is going through a grueling process. You're playing in 6 online qualifiers, international majors across different places in the world, all for the chance, as that's accumulated, to hope that you get an opportunity to go and compete at the World Championship. Now, that sounds like a crazy dream, but for some select few, that is an opportunity, and it's even more difficult in some of the minor regions or the expansion regions because they have less spots that they're able to go and compete and play. For the MENA region, there's 2 spots, 2 teams, 2 representations, only 6 players for an entire country that get to go and compete at this World Championship. Now, while this process is grueling, there is ways to kind of help your circumstances. Obviously, hard work and practice and stuff pays off. But the reality is for these 2 teams that we're about to talk about, one of them being Falcons, which is this super team that has come to be, and another one by the name of Rule 1. Many of you may recognize Rule 1 as it was Sunless Khan and Civic's project that they put together. And due to some unfortunate circumstances, things fell apart. Through the World Championship, there is 2 splits. They now call them majors. There's Major 1 and Major 2. And in order to go to the international major, you have to play in 3 qualifiers. Qualifier 1, 2, 3, Falcons proves to be the best. They do not lose a single time. And slowly behind them is Rule 1, who also stayed relatively competitive. We then get into the second splitter during this offseason, and some weirdness happened. Unfortunately, one of the players had a video that was leaked of them being racist. They were in a Discord call and being harassed, and without a filter or without anything or thinking of it, this person decided to be racist, and the player we're talking about is Nalpo. Nalpo gets released from the team. Rule 1 says we're done with this, we're backing out, and the roster disbands. But in the state of RLCS, there's a 2/3 rule where if 2/3 of your starters still continue to compete, they have the capability to retain the spot and the points that they have earned throughout the season. So they bring in a new player. So the new team now becomes Okhalid, Nupo, or Nalpo, and Venom. And they become this team called Team Anything. At the same time, a former player who was on that roster by the name of Ahmad, who is our kind of focal point of this story, decides to join another team by the name of Twisted Minds. And they go on a tear during this second split, Major 2 qualifiers. They take 2nd place in Qualifier 4. They take 2nd place in Qualifier 5. And top 4 in Qualifier 6, with every loss coming from that dominant Team Falcons team who has yet to lose. They've won every single event. Because of this gives them the opportunity to potentially play catch up, the ability to pass them up in the overall point total. They need to go at least 2 and 3. They need to win 2 out of 5 series before they receive 3 losses to then kind of supersede and get enough points to replace this anything roster that he previously was on and go to the World Championship. Unfortunately, they went 1 and 3 at the major in London and are still 3 points behind anything. And because of that, Falcons, who has secured their spot, takes one of the spots, and the other spot goes to this anything roster that has enough points previously, plus their pretty solid results throughout the split 2 or the Major 2 split, to keep them afloat, even though they don't get the additional points that you get for going to international competition. Because of this, Ahmad decides to retire. He's like, you know what? I gave it my last hurrah. I went to this new team. We performed really well, but we just weren't quite good enough to make up those points we didn't have in the first split. And I'm going to retire. It's July 4th. I'm done. I'm hanging it up. I've been competing for so long. I waited 5 years to get into the RLCS because that's how long they kept our region before they decided to expand and allow us to compete. I performed admirably at Atlanta, did some really exciting things, but my career is over. I'm done. I'm hanging it up. With that, after he retires on July 15th, a few weeks later, Nalpo joins that team. So Nalpo, who was on anything, who's going to the World Championship, has now taken the spot of his former teammate who now retired on Twisted Minds. And Twisted Minds goes, hey, even though he's contracted through us, he's still allowed to play. We're still going to let him play at the World Championship. we're fine. Until some news that has hit the surface the last 2 days. On August 13th, a person by the name of Nawiz, who is a Saudi esports ambassador in the past, he helped out with Gamers 8 and stuff, very familiar with the Saudi esports scene. He ended up putting out a message stating, for whatever reason that we don't know, anything will not be participating at the World Championship. Because of that, the next 3 in line, based upon a rule, is that if a team declines or is unable to participate, we just go to the next in the highest scoring RLCS points. So if we look at the overall RLCS points, that leaves Twisted Minds, R8, Bravado. We then have teams below that, and people are wondering why aren't some of these involved, and we'll get to that. But you're basically going down this list one by one to see, okay, do you want to go? No. Do you want to go? No. Do you want to go? And you keep working down until you find out who it is. We then got a further update stating that, hey, Twisted Minds has the spot if Ahmad decides to unretire. And many are like, but what do you mean? Twisted Minds has Nalpo. He's fine. That doesn't work. In the RLCS, there is a trade window basically allowing you to a very specific 2 to 3 weeks make roster changes. And if you do it without that or do it outside of those terms, you can't do it. And that's what happened. During the trade window between Split 1 and Split 2 is when they would have had to make that change. They did not. And because it happened afterwards, the only way Twisted Minds gets to retain their spot and continue to play is if Ahmad unretires. To which he says this: "Peace be upon you. I'm a person who has retired from playing, and the journey has ended for me as a player. Take my word for it. I will not play in the World Cup. I will not play in the World Championship. Don't listen to anyone else's words about me. Thank you." So to me, the thought process goes, okay, you have retired. You are sticking to your guns. You have committed to that. And I respect the heck out of you. I also am curious and wonder, okay, when you left Twisted Minds, did it say, hey, these 2 players are like, hey, we want to kick this guy, and that's why he's saying, hey, I'm not coming back? Or is it truly, hey, it was my decision to retire. I gave it one last hurrah. We didn't qualify. This is the guidelines that I set for myself before we decided to move through. And he's like, no matter what happens, I'm done. I have checked out. I've stopped playing. I'm focused on my next endeavor. And I respect the heck out of him for it. So because of that, Twisted Minds isn't it. His former teammates, although it's so close to being there, they could go to the World Championship. It's done. We go next to the list. We've got R8. R8 says, hey, you've got the spot if you want it. Well, turns out one of the players, Abdullah, went to Bravado, and Hatem, one of their other players, left. So they don't even have a full roster. And yes, they could revert and go and play, but like the timing's too poor. It's only in a month. They've got to get visa issues secured. They got to make sure that the players are of eligibility. It's too late. It's poor timing. Players aren't available. R8's out. We go down to the next one, Bravado. Bravado's a completely new roster. They're ineligible. All the transfers, all the trades, they're done as well. So Bravado's out. We now go to Team Rock. And if you don't know Team Rock, this is a very wild team. Team Rock is made up of a bunch of 14-year-olds. It's the youngest team in Rocket League history. And they decided, hey, we're all young mechanical players from this region. Let's give it a shot. And have been playing pretty solid. And they continuously improve. You're talking 2, what are these? Top 4 finishes and then a top 8 finish. Like, they've been competitive. And the only teams they're losing to are the top dogs. The Falcons, the Anythings, the Twisted Minds. So, like, they are toe-in-toe with some of these teams. So there is a chance that the young guns who formed late, who've just been kind of figuring their stuff out, could be going to the World Championship as the second representation for the MENA region, which is insane. And if they can't do it, because again, young team, visa situations, they've got to find parental figures that can help support, then it drops down again and goes to the Vision/Ranger team. Vision ended up dropping their roster and picking up Rock. So Rock is no longer, they're now known as Vision. Ranger ended up having their players move to Awawa, AWAWA, which was also the Ranger esport team. And they got picked up by GK Esports. If you guys don't know GK, they are a bigger organization. They're involved. Their coach currently is Nick, who used to help out with the Falcons, who was actually coaching that M80 squad that had their 8th place debacles. So there's a chance that they go. So, like, we're going through all this. We're trying to figure out, like, okay, who's where? What are the results? What's figured? Like, I have so many tabs open on this page, and there's more translations across the board everywhere, trying to make sure that I don't lose it. But the reality is, players try so hard in their professional careers to make it to the World Championship. And one of those players obviously decided to hang up the sticks. He's done. And I respect the hell out of Ahmad for it. And yes, he could unretire, play in the World Championship, and give it one last hurrah. But, like, does he want to tarnish his career? Does he want to go back on his promise? Does he want to do? He says, no, I'm over it. And then because of that, we just go down the ladder. The only thing we don't know to this story is why. Why now, of all time, why now is anything not able to play? Because all the reports, everything we've seen based upon the public sense and the public sentiment is we don't know. They're not allowed to compete for, quote, unknown reasons. Is it due to the circumstance that people were confused about why no action has been taken towards Nalpo? Because Nalpo is, despite the things coming out and those actions being bannable offenses in other regions, it wasn't enacted on him. So, like, is this now their way of enacting it? Did they finally look into it and had enough time to finally do it? And if so, why did it take so long? Why are you doing it a month before the World Championship? Why are you making things more complicated? We don't know. My assumption is they are withholding, but, like, if you're telling me that they're not allowed to play and Twisted Minds doesn't have their new or their old player willing to fill that spot back in, go down the list. All these transfers, all these changes, like, if they would have just stuck together, it would have been bravado. It would have been art. It's crazy, man. It is absolutely bonkers. But as we find out more information, as we find out who the eligible team is, you best believe we will update you guys on it. This one's been a roller coaster. We've been typing notes like crazy. We've been trying to figure things out all stream today. So, yeah. Whether it is Twisted Minds, maybe Ahmad does decide to change his mind. Whether it is Team Rock, now Vision, or it's GK, former Ranger, we'll have to wait and see. If you guys want to make sure you don't miss out on that, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.